It's for us, it's cold. It's quite as good, but it's
We're
like
live.
it's in the
We're
50.
what?
Okay.
Wait,
It's
wait.
in the,
We're live. I want you to know we're live, just in case you might say something you don't want
all
to say
right, I
online.
won't do that.
It's going to take a couple of minutes, but it's in the 50s in
Well,
Hawaii.
at night.
Yeah, but still.
January's the coldest month, and we often get some nights and early mornings in like the mid to high 50s, which, to us is quite frigid. But then it's like mid 70s in the day. So
Yeah, but I mean, come on, that's cold. I mean, when's the
yeah,
last time it was in the 50s in Hawaii?
every January. Every
Really?
January.
Oh, I didn't
Yes.
know that. I don't remember
Yep.
that.
Every
I know I was
January.
there in January. I was sick
The
most of the time.
oh,
Yeah, I got initiated. It was something like see, it was 13 days for Morgan, 17 days for me, and there was like 6 or 7 days that were both of us at the same time in the middle.
I vaguely
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah, that was wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw a post you put up recently. Oh, welcome back, Ameera, Atlantis.
I can't
Atlantis.
believe how long it's been since we talked.
Probably I think we did one show after we left the island.
Yeah,
So that was
it's
I
been a
would
couple of years.
yeah, we left 2019. We arrived in LA Lionsgate at Terminal 8. No, Terminal 5D. That's what it was.
Terminal 5D.
So yeah, probably 3 years, maybe.
Yeah,
Something like that.
I think we've talked about within the last 2 years I was on your show, but that's still a long time. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's still a minute.
Yeah, I had a show with Ramona Lappin and Michelle Walling today,
Uh-huh.
and both of them had been like the same time, like 3 years,
Yeah. I
give or
like
take.
your hair. Did you do something different?
Yeah, I
Or is
lost
it
it. It's
okay?
leaving me. It's leaving me. No, I washed it this morning.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a mess. Yeah, it's a mess. I don't know whether to cut it all off or what. I don't really care. I just want to get through this. Um, this whole thing we've been doing for 10 years that we can really put our finger on. And
mm-hmm.
that and I think in the post, there's a certain energy. It's not the same story every time, but there's a certain energy that you're seeing in people's writings and what they're receiving. Everybody has their own little piece, but there's like a common thread. And I
Yeah.
think that's what I picked up on your post after we connected. I went and, oh, what's she up to? You talked about Atlantis, and you kind of weaved in some of your recollection and what's
Yeah.
going on now, but the frequency of it, the band of frequencies of it, to me coincided and correlates with what a lot of people are talking about. So the December 21st, 2022 was the 10-year from what everyone, well, not everyone, but what a lot of people thought was going to happen. I mean, December 21st, 2012, Drumvalo, Melchizedek, and many people were in pyramids thinking they were going to physically ascend at that time.
Right.
And all understandable, thank you for paving the way. But that 10-year mark, there's something to be said for it. And there feels like a whole different energy.
Yeah.
It's not energy, it's a world, really, as we're in 2023. And I think your commentary on it, your experience about it and your intel kind of followed that. So I don't know if you want to start there. You know what post I'm talking about?
Was that the one about the split between the masculine and feminine and Atlantis and Lemuria? I put a few up recently.
I think that might have been part of it, if that wasn't it. Yeah, but anything you've written recently, anything that you're into or onto, just let's start there.
Okay. Well, I did you know that I went to Portugal in October?
No, did not.
I took an 18-day soul journey to Lisbon in the actual country of Portugal, Madeira, and the Azores, because Spirit told me to go to Atlantis, and most of Europe is the Atlantean energy, and Portugal and the Azores in particular are very ripe with Atlantean energetics. And Kauai is Lemuria. There's 9 islands in the Hawaii island chain, and there's also 9 islands and if you don't know where the Azores is, if anybody who doesn't know, it's about 1,200 miles off the coast of Portugal. So it's out in the middle of the Atlantic, and it's part of Portugal, but it's also its own entity with its own, governing body and so forth. And so I've been living on, at Lemuria for 7 years. I just hit 7 years on Kauai. And I felt this strong call. Spirit said, just make the leap, get on a plane and go to Atlantis and go visit Portugal for a while, which was just fantastic. If you've never been to Portugal, you should go. First of all, the food is amazing and
Right.
very inexpensive. And I've never been to Europe before. I've never been out of the United States, except, southern Canada, where you drive. And so I took this huge leap of traveling internationally by myself for the very first time. I felt a little like Mary Tyler Moore, throwing my hat up in the air, when I arrived in Lisbon and was immersed in this entirely new culture. And, of course, Europe is very, very old, much older than the United States, and the buildings and the streets and the people and everything. It was like, oh, my God, this has been here my whole life and I've never been here. Right. I've never experienced this. And I was just in awe of the whole thing. And so I took myself on this soul journey. And, ultimately, the apex of it was going to the Azores. And I went to the biggest island in the Azores, which is called São Miguel. And I did lots of research before I left, lots of YouTube videos about what to do there, what's going on there, just to kind of get a feel of where to stay and what to do and all the cool things about that island in general. But more importantly, it was a mission for me to do some bridging between Atlantis and Lemuria. And how I was going to do that, I wasn't really sure, but you know how it is when you get the call to go, you just go. And in my heart, in my soul, I knew this was exactly what I was supposed to be doing. And that I would be okay, even though I was, traveling, doing all this traveling by myself and not ever having traveled in Europe before. I just did it. I just trusted, and kind of on a wing and a prayer, I went and I did this. And so when I was on São Miguel, that is father energy. The Azores is father to the Hawaiian Islands mother.
Right.
So like you're here and you're so immersed in the divine feminine and the divine mother energy. Over there, it's the divine father.
Right.
And there's a lot of similarities between island chains, because of course they're both island chains, but the Azores is much more rugged, I would say, than Hawaii is, much more masculine, but this really nurturing, I'm going to school you, but I love you. It's for your
Sounds
own
like
good.
the mother to me.
Yes.
Sounds like the mother to me.
It's both. No, really, it's both. And so I did many wonderful, hikes, and being on the land and being in the Atlantic Ocean was my first experience in that. And one of the places that I went on São Miguel was this hike up to this mountain called Sete Cidades, which means 7 cities. Yeah. And up in Sete Cidades, there is 2 lakes that are joined or just separated only by a bridge. And one lake is blue and one lake is green.
Really blue and green.
Yeah, one is blue, and the mythology behind the lakes is that there was a shepherd and a princess that fell in love, and one had a blue eye and one had a green eye, but because of their different ways of life, they were not allowed to be together. Wow. And so one holds the masculine, one holds the feminine of these 2 divine beloveds, and they are Lemuria and Atlantis, separated by the bridge. And I started to go, Spirit started to give me this whole like download when they Spirit said to go there, and I knew it wasn't just to be in the energy of these lakes, although 7 cities is the 7 is very important and prominent to me. I went and I realized that I was there to help act as a bridge between Atlantis and Lemuria, and the masculine and the feminine, because there are a lot of people who, believe it or not, feel some kind of way about Atlantis. And feel some kind of way about the ending of Atlantis and what the Atlanteans did in the form of enslavement of the Lemurian people, and even of the feminine principle. And even today, I'll post things about Atlantis because, that's my lineage, and that's what I'm here to teach. And I've actually created an Atlantean healing system from my remembrance. And I'll get pushback from people about, there's no Atlantis rising, and Atlantis is evil. And, it's all about Lemuria because those folks have not learned to heal and integrate that experience, right? Or that victimization, or whatever they have felt or learned about Atlantis. And I really feel like if we don't do that, like take away the victim perpetrator stories and archetypes and reunionize and balance and heal and unify, that's a very big key to the ascension of this planet and the rebalancing of our masculine and feminine, because that's where we came apart on the microcosm level. We separated in our masculine and feminine when Atlantis and Lemuria had their war. Okay, that was the macrocosm to the microcosm. And so I was sent there to be a bridge and act as a bridge, and actually walked the bridge between the lakes and did ceremony and put some Andaras, did some Andara work and prayer work for the planet, so that we can stop these archetypes and these stories that continue to keep us separate, and enjoy and honor all the things about Lemuria that are important, and all the things that Atlantis are about important, and rewrite the story. Like, it's really about rewriting the spiral in the story.
Yeah, God, you said a lot there.
Yeah, I know.
No, there's a lot to look at there, but I think one thing is certain: there's more and more and more discussion about Atlantis.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call it the mainstream, but I would call it the mainstream disclosure conspiracy. Well,
Right.
Graham Hancock just got into Netflix a couple of 3 months ago with his
I saw.
series. Yeah. So I one thing too that seems to be happening is when something comes into our awareness, even if we're not conscious, something a form of remembrance begins. And when you're talking, I was thinking about that because I think, everything's coming up, and knowing the story, period, be it Lemuria, Atlantis, the interactions between them, and we all have certain levels of remembrance, even if it's not always conscious. It comes in the form of feeling. And I think that's what what I got from you is there are a lot of people coming into that. So it's, you could say, for lack of a better word, it's triggering, because probably we identify predominantly with one or the other, be the oppressor or the victim. I mean, I remember my metaphoric remembrance of that moment. And I remember being in a matriarchal society, not to say that was the way, but that's the way it was. Mm-hmm. And I remember when that distorted masculine energy came in, and I remember it was not something that was like feathered in. It was immediate. It was an immediate, almost like you would say, like energetically, a pole shift. Mm-hmm. And so I think everybody's probably got, I'm sure in their DNA, just hearing about it. So I think it's good. And I'm looking forward to, as Atlantis becomes, more into the collective awareness, that Lemuria follows. Yeah. Because, Morgan and I spent 10 months there. And, just as a footnote, we went to Florida from there, diagonal. Right. And Atlantis, and same type of thing was going down. Atlantis, Lemuria, The dolphins were involved. There was all kinds of stuff. But in Kauai, in the first week, and times afterwards, but in the first week, it was very intense. Pure Lemurian, dimensional, fully conscious and awake kind of experiences. So it's important, I think, to talk, in this day when there's and I understand it, a lot of talk about you need to do this, or you can do this and you can heal that. And I'm not taking anything away from that, but I think it's just as important, if not more, to talk about these things that are buried in our memories, in our DNA. Not so much for, you were wrong then and I was right or whatever, but because we know the story and we know I guess in a sense, the program that it was.
Yeah.
So now we're choosing this, choosing this new reality based on a big part of that information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you went over there, and that was when?
That was in last part of October and into November.
Oh my God, that was the end of everybody I talked to. Everybody from mid-July or July or maybe even June for some people through about the 22nd of November was an absolute, like just a total, wild, crazy, blistering, burning in a good way, burning out things. I mean, how was it for you?
Well, it was the whole experience that I had in Europe and Portugal was excellent, except for the fact that nobody told me about the driving in Europe. They drive very fast and they drive a stick shift. And I rented my car when I landed in San Miguel, and I didn't even think to ask for an automatic, and I had not driven a stick shift since high school. So me getting in this car in this strange land, trying to remember how to do the gears and look at my phone and find my way around that island for a week was it definitely activated and brought up my sense of, am I going to live today? Can I do this? And why isn't there a man here to drive me?
Why isn't there a man here to drive me? Were you driving on the wrong side of the road? On the left side of the road?
No, they drive on the regular side of the road.
Okay.
But it definitely brought up all that, lower chakra survival,
right?
Like trying to navigate all these parts of my brain and have that driving experience. I got really schooled, and Madeira too is the same thing. I had a stick shift, and everything is built up like this or like this. So you're either in first gear, second gear, first gear, second gear, first gear, second gear on these roads that are made for donkeys. They're not made for cars. And so that was, as a woman who got to go there and completely take care of myself, and I don't like to drive anyway.
Is that the first time?
I hate driving.
Is that the first time that you ever did that? I mean, like went to a foreign country?
Yes. I'd never been anywhere. First stamp on my passport.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it did bring up like a lot of those types of things for me, like survival things. And like my nervous system was a little hijacked every time I had to get in the car. Breathe, ground, pray. Don't let me kill nobody. Don't let nobody kill me. Get me through where I need to be safely.
Nobody died.
Nobody, no.
That's what Hung says about the Soulogy Fest. Nobody died. Hashtag nobody died.
Yeah. And so that, the growth experience that a person when you take yourself on that kind of an adventure was pretty intense and pretty extreme. And I'm very proud of myself for figuring it all out for the most part, on my own. Every time I needed help with something, there was somebody that would show up and help me get somewhere, do something.
Right. So you get home, because I mean, looking at it energetically, and with what seemed to be going on at that time, right? Everybody's experience is different, but so you get home right before this corridor. Some people say there was a corridor 40 days, I believe, 11/11 to the 21st
12,
of December.
21st, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was some that it was 12/12 or 12/12 to 21, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then of course the 10-year thing. So you're coming right in, and I don't know about you, but but for me, it seemed like after the solstice,
Mhm.
whatever time my human figure, started to come into its, comprehension of things, that was like spit out on the other side. It was absolutely, we got to the other side.
Yeah.
We have made it to the other side, and fuck everything else because I
Yeah.
know we're here. But at the same time, being real, like weary, just like, man, oh my God, I am exhausted. I
Yeah.
mean,
I came back and went through extreme integrations, of course, and integrations with Poseidon. He was near me as I wrote this course that I created in the world, masculine present, and then we went through an integration between 1212 and 1221, for which I spent a lot of time.
so
Poseidon, yeah,
with Poseidon, okay, so all right, let us into your world. Let's hear about this.
okay,
So from 1212 to 1221, you
yep,
went through an integration or merging with
yes,
Poseidon.
a
Okay, which
like a masculine and feminine
mhm,
inner hieros gamos.
wow. Now
Yeah.
did you feel like Poseidon was the masculine, you were the feminine, or did you feel like Poseidon was merging with you, carrying both?
Oh, for sure, he was coming, bringing me masculine, divine, masculine essence, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
I got you. I got you. Wow,
yeah,
10 days.
yeah.
That's a
And
pretty
and
long,
I
that's a
and
pretty
I
long
actually
honeymoon.
heard him on, I know, on 12, on 1212 say, Are you ready for a merger? Would you like to have a merger with me?" And
Uh,
I said, yes, of course. And then you don't
yeah,
really know what you're saying yes to, what the next days are gonna involve, which was just a lot of feeling very spun out of my body and can't find your true north, and just
hmm,
reacclimating and reintegrating. It's the Titan energy. It's Titan energy that's arrived on the planet. We are the Titans.
right,
We
right,
are them in physical form,
right.
attempting to hold and carry, that God, goddess, that divine, human and divine energy that they can't do. And, we're here to do it. We
Spirit
got the
flesh.
body.
Yeah, spirit flesh.
Yeah.
And everybody's experience is different. And as the physical and non-physical merge, also our narratives, they're merging. Like we pick it up telepathically and intuitively, and we can see there's some kind of common thread converging. And the stories, I still look at everything very metaphorically, even the things that we're experiencing, because they're really giving us or heading us one direction, the same
Mhm.
direction. And but like what you're talking about with what happened to you, I heard different versions,
Yeah.
but really speaking to that divine marriage within ourselves. And I really feel like with what we went through, especially the older ones, and I know there's some older than me, but not too many. But I feel like that we we have vastly underestimated our efforts,
Yes.
and divine marriage probably within ourselves probably was produced before we even met each other,
Hmm.
or we wouldn't have. And so this is to me going to be an extraordinary year. I'm a little bit fascinated by the extremes of the polarity with the distortion, like on the world stage, but at the same time, it's just taking in an organic and natural way less and less of my attention.
Yeah.
My attention is just really in my own closest circles,
Right.
and
And my
I'm not.
mission,
Yeah. Well, that's part of it, right?
you know.
That's part of it. Yeah, yeah. Have you seen a difference in people in Kauai? Because I know this really shocked me with the whole COVID thing. How every area reacted differently, and
Hmm.
Hawaii was interesting over there, right?
Yeah.
And because I guess the difference being there's such a strong indigenous population.
Right.
And so I saw some really impressive videos, like some council meetings and stuff like that. But it seemed to be pretty locked down.
Yeah,
And I
it
think
was.
yeah. And so, but I'm just wondering, like through this 3 years, because I know Kauai, it's the kind of community like Kapa'a, you can get around and you'll see some of the same people. You can pick up the vibe easier.
Mhm.
Did you notice any type of difference like before and after?
Before and after COVID?
Yeah.
I would say that there is not as much aloha in the restaurants and in the different shops and things like that there was before COVID. The whole experience of so there was a double-edged sword for having Kauai closed down like it was. The adverse side was that a lot of businesses closed, a lot of people were unemployed, a lot of people had to move off the island. A lot of Californians and mainlanders came and bought properties here and displaced a lot of the residents.
Wow.
That was really extreme, and the whole housing situation here is pretty extreme right now, where local people fear, it's very, very difficult to get housing.
Sounds
and
like
it's extremely extremely expensive.
Sounds like Sedona.
Yeah.
It does. Sounds like Sedona, and I'm sure other places like that. And it's got well, that's a whole other story, another subject. But yeah, I think the point being, are we in a space where it is a new world where we are actually here, and we did grossly underestimate the work that we've done on ourselves individually and as a collective, the impact on the energetic field, the rebuilding of the new Earth grid. And what do we do now?
Yeah.
A lot of people are pointing to March, April.
Yeah.
That we really start to come out. I don't know if what your whole mix is in your tool belt, but I'd love to hear some Atlantean perspective. And I don't know if you're like into astrology too. I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, whatever you can,
Okay.
provide us that like where we're at and what it looks like where we're going, or what the energies that'll be prevalent might be.
Okay. And I just want to finish real quick the double-edged sword on Kauai. The other side of that was the land was happier without the people. The water was happier without the people. The corals started to rebuild. We had miles and miles of beaches with no one on them and no traffic. So it was just very much this, this dichotomy, this polarity of on one hand, it was so nice to be here without all the population, and now all the tourists are back.
Wow.
And in droves they're back. And so I think that for the indigenous people, I think that is very difficult for them and on them, because for a little while they got to re-experience or remember what it was like to have, to be Hawaiian, to be a native born on Hawaiian and actually have your island.
Or to even be there and nobody be there. Because I mean, really, Kauai and Kapa'a, I mean, it's a sleepy kind of little town. Everybody shuts down, right?
Yes.
I mean, so for it to be like that for an extended period of time.
Yeah, it was a trip. It was actually really cool in a lot of ways. But then it like I said, it was definitely a double-edged sword. So, and then so moving into an astrology standpoint, supposedly March is kind of supposed to be the apex of everything that we've been moving through since 2012. Like everything is supposed to kind of culminate in some kind of a way. And from what I've heard, the word on the street, like maybe in some really big turmoil types of ways for the planet again. Like something else might be planned that is going to spin us all into a tale. And you're right, we have grown so much as people, as humanity, and the inner work that we've been doing. I think we should really pat ourselves on the back for all the growth despite all the obstacles. And sometimes it doesn't always feel like the world is a reflection of how much we have grown as individuals. Like the world is still doing shit.
Yeah.
And so it can be kind of a struggle to stay positive or to notice how far we have come when we look at the exterior world. And there's so much happening, that there's so much contrived stuff and propaganda and things being pumped out to keep us down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's a disappointment, I think, in some, and even in me, when I think back to 2012, and I go, what's the world going to be like in a decade? We're going to do this now, everything's shifting. And in a decade, it's going to be maybe so much better. And in a lot of ways, it's not. And that's a little startling. In contrast to how I feel on the inside is so different than when I was 10 years ago, but the outside world is still kind of hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said about the, okay, so I think for me, and I'm not saying this is what's happening, but like what I was referring to a little bit earlier, people seem to be kind of going, hey, this is kind of what I'm seeing or feeling. If I had to put a demarcation line, it would be, let's just say, the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
So before and everything and always, even though it may have lessened or whatever the case is, that pushback was always there. The pushback was there, and it felt external. But now it's not. Like now it's not there. These things aren't sticking. And the old kind of spiritual bypassing thing, everything's it's fluffy love and light.
Yeah.
Don't look over there at the dark and it'll go away. It's not that, but it's kind of like that, because it's just not something that is a priority in our life.
Yeah.
And although it seems like we need to be invested in it, investing in ourselves, finding ourselves, coming into our awareness, and then saying, hey, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? How do I want to live? And focusing on that seems to be a direction a lot of people are going, whether it be by their choice or not, because a lot of people have been displaced. A lot of people find themselves in situations that are estranged again, even more from their family, all these different shifts. Doesn't happen the same for everybody all the time, but there's something to be said for that. And my feeling is, like talking with you, talking with the last 2 or 3 guests, everybody has a different slant. You have this Atlantean Lemurian connection. The one before had galactic, but I hadn't seen her in 3 or 4 years. Now she's very much organic into the human thing, but at a very multidimensional level. And then Ramona might be a little different, whoever it is. But something's going on. Like, to talk about our experiences to the extent that you're talking today and these others are doing, there's something within it that has code that continues to wake us up even more rapidly. And that's where
I think
putting my
a lot
attention.
of that is the BS that keeps coming at us, like, egg shortages. Who cares? So the media continually pumps out this fear propaganda to whip people up into a frenzy. When I go to Costco, there's plenty of eggs. So where is this so it's not, so like you said, it's not paying attention to all the crazy that comes out of the media that keeps trying to rope people into drama. Like now it comes up and I kind of laugh. I'm like, okay, well, it's ridiculous, because my soul is so set on the direction of how I'm moving forward, moving my community forward, and separating. And yes, we do have to separate from some people and some situations and move with the timeline that we really, truly believe in the most and want to create the most.
Yeah.
So on December 21st, 2020, I don't remember if we talked since then or not, that we had the Grand Conjunction. You remember that Grand Conjunction when Saturn and Jupiter came together? Okay. On that day, on the winter solstice, when Saturn and Jupiter came together, the other galactic event that started to happen is that, this 13,000 year spiral that we've been on since the fall of Atlantis.
Right.
That was the centrifugal center point where it began to reverse itself.
All right.
So we spiraled into this 13,000 year pinhole. The Grand Conjunction happens, and we have started to spiral out of that now. The good news is it's not going to take 13,000 years to come all the way completely out of it. But along the way, along the unraveling and the unwinding and the course correction of the spiral, there is going to continue to be a lot of the same kind of dramas and things that we saw going in. Okay, because again, it's going to take a little bit of time right? Before we start seeing the other side, where we start seeing the release. I think we're going to go through this next decade. I think there's going to be some pretty hard times out in the world continually. As we unravel, we heal ourselves, we unwind, we balance, and we course correct with the spiral of Atlantis. And it is very important to restore the Atlantean timelines because it's different than the Lemurian timelines. Lemuria does not have the same karma that Atlantis did. The karma that Atlantis carries and the karma that, you know, the dark energies, when they came in and changed everything up in the Atlantean experience, that had a reverberation out into the galaxies, all into everywhere, because the beings were from everywhere. So I feel like we have come back through time and space, all of us who were there, to fix what we helped screw up, or fix or repair where we didn't do things in a way that were going to be conducive to the idea of Atlantis, which was the law of one. And it's really about the law of one and the seven spiritual laws of Atlantis and bringing that back down to Earth. Okay, that's an important part of the healing process of this planet. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay,
maybe we all constructed this, and maybe we are all deconstructing that.
We did. That's exactly what happened.
Right. I mean,
that's exactly like we all took part in this experiment. We kind of knew, okay, we're going to try this out. We're experimenters. That's what we experiment every day in our life. You experiment every time you wake up. Well, if I eat this, what's going to happen to my body? If I take this, if I have this relationship, everything in life is an experiment because we're creators. Okay, we went into this Atlantean experiment and things didn't quite maybe go so well, but it was an experiment. And when you have an experiment, you have to add a variable. You can't have an experiment if you don't have like things coming in unexpected or things coming in that, you know, keep it the same.
Right.
Okay, so we constructed the whole experiment with the creator, and now we're deconstructing it. We're like, well, that didn't turn out so good, so now let's try something new. Let's bring God into the 3D instead of leaving, like the Atlanteans were fifth dimensional beings in a third dimensional body, right? Trying to remember how to be fifth dimensional beings. We're third dimensional beings trying to remember how to be fifth dimensional beings and above. You know, we're trying to go back to that connection. We're doing the reverse. That's the experiment. Can we do it? Can we unravel the spiral? Can we remember love? Can we remember unity? Can we remember how to balance ourselves? Can we remember to quit fighting about it all and work together? Can we remember we are soul? Can we remember we are eternal beings? Can we remember that?
I think we are.
Yeah,
I think
do too.
we are.
I do too.
I really do.
You know, every time I take somebody into past life regression, and we do a soul retrieval, and their personality or their identity has died in that life, and we do a retrieval and they experience themselves on the other side of that life, I reaffirm with them, you're eternal being. Now your past life person who suffered ... understands that you are an eternal being living right here, right now. And you can both heal.
Now, your connection to Atlantis, the Mer people, you know, aquatic icons and essences like Poseidon, is that like a daily thing?
It's just how I live my life. It's just, I don't want to say who I am because I don't want to, but that is just how I move through my day as Mer, as an emanation of Yemaya.
Yemaya.
Yeah, who is the ocean mother goddess.
It
is just
the Portuguese or the Brazilian,
yes,
or Yemanja. Yeah,
and African also.
Yeah, Yemanja. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I asked somebody. I had somebody from, I thought it was Brazil, in the last month, and I said, "Who is Yemanja? You know, is that, you know, what is that?" And it was kind of like this, I guess, Mother Goddess energy. You know, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, Mother Mary,
ocean. She's the ocean mother goddess.
Yeah, the ocean. Yeah. I never felt the mother's energy in physical form more than in the waves at Kauai.
Yeah, for sure.
Seriously. Like and yeah, it was incredible. I mean, it was a little painful at times. She threw me on the on the bed of the ocean at full force. But yeah. Kauai definitely is the mother, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah,
No
and
doubt.
the Azores is so Poseidon,
Yeah.
so father energy, and to have them be in that contrast was very healing for my soul.
Mm.
You know, very, very healing for my spiritual lineage, and, you know, helping me to bring just more of that myrrh essence and energy and embody that more deeply. Yeah.
Do you think or know if there are mer people in physical form that have 3D density that are, you know, maybe different than us, but that are actually living,
You mean, do I
like
think that
living? Yeah,
there are there mer people
yeah.
in a 3D body? Is
Well,
that what you're
like,
asking?
yes.
Yeah, I consider myself one. Absolutely. I
But
consider
I
myself.
mean, as far as like physically, like, cause sometimes I've had, I used to have them a lot, but not just
Mhm,
recently. I had a one or two. I call them the people of the deep blue. Now I can't
mhm.
see them as mer people. I don't know, but I'm just wondering,
Oh,
like,
you want to know
I
if there's
want,
3D mer people out in the
yeah,
ocean?
yeah. I just wonder if there's like, and I mean, anything's possible,
I
but
don't
since you,
believe I don't believe we are 3D in the water. We are more 5D, but we can
mm,
appear as 3D.
I got you. I got
There's
you.
a interdimensional frequency when we want to appear to somebody. We can have a 3D look. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that way down in the depths of the ocean, there is not some kind of a physical being that resembles some kind of a mer, because we don't know what's
Right.
down there, right?
Yeah.
So I absolutely believe there are beings deep in the ocean that don't look like a mermaid, like our stereotypical mermaid, but are some kind of an aquatic
Mm,
being that lives underwater. Absolutely,
mm.
I believe that.
Is there a connection, you know, like from your experience with the mer people, that vibe, you know, and galactic?
Well, yeah. So do you know about Mintaka?
Mintaka? No.
Mintaka is the westernmost star in Orion's belt,
Okay.
and it is the blue water planet, and it is where the mer, most of the mer came from when they fell to Earth with original water. They came from Mintaka. So that would be like the galactic home or the galactic hub of the mer.
Okay.
There might be some other places too, but that's the one that I'm most familiar with.
And I know everybody's a mutt, but I mean, would you say that mer, that type of you know, species or whatever you want to call it, is that more elemental or galactic?
So that form of mer would be galactic.
Okay.
When we are in Mintaka, we are completely galactic mer. And even on Earth, like the mers who came to Earth don't consider themselves to be, we don't consider ourselves to be elementals.
Mm,
We are like elementals, but we do not consider ourselves to be elementals.
mm.
We kind of consider ourselves to have our own type of classification.
So what was the like craziest or biggest or most divine thing that happened on your trip to the Azores to Portugal?
Oh boy, the biggest thing that happened to me. Well, you want to talk about like maybe an event? Is that what you mean?
Anything, just
Well,
or
when I
any
went to
things.
I went to Madeira. I went to Madeira, and I took a hike there called Pico di Airilo, which is a moderate to difficult hike from the very highest pico to pico, mountain to mountain. And I went with a group of friends there, and we watched the sun come up over the top and took this magnificent hike that reminded me very much of being on Kauai in a lot of ways. But the mountain and the terrain there is it's kind of like Kauai on steroids. And it's hard to me to give you a visualization of what that hike and what that experience of moving through there, because it's a very difficult hike and very, very beautiful with, you know, some of the pathways had tunnels dynamited through the mountains so people could pass. And so the architecture there on Madeira, and even getting around in general, they dynamite around the mountains so people can get through, you know, 2-mile roads in the tunnels and the levadas that bring the water. And being up on that hike, I think, was probably like a pinnacle of my experience there, because, you know, you could just see all over the land. You could just see all over the island, and it was absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, like that canyon in Kauai. That place is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Second deepest canyon in the United States.
Yeah.
And cool.
Yeah, there were many beautiful things that I saw and experienced. And of course, they have hot springs there, which was magnificent. And yeah, and if you've never been to Portugal, it's just really, really a wonderful, wonderful environment.
So what are your plans? Like, what do you, collectively speaking, individually speaking, what do you think we're getting into, or you're getting into, as we get into the spring here in the North Hemisphere?
What am I personally, or what I think the world is getting into?
Both.
Yeah. I think that we are going to see some challenging things come our way in the spring, kind of like you talked about. I think that the powers that be, or whatever you want to call them, are not done flinging things at humanity to keep us in a form of enslavement and entrapment and fear and worry. And we're going to have to tap into our superpowers collectively to overcome and pull through them. I think there's going to be some food things they're going to try and throw at us. I think there's going to be some talk of war that they're going to kind of throw at us. And again, it's just going to keep trying to keep those of us in, and as many people in a spin cycle as they can. And those of us who know better are going to have to remember every single day we can make a choice to pull out of that.
I've heard people talking. I'm just going to kind of like put a little collective description together. I'm not eating very much. My body's voice is getting very loud. The call, it's on. I don't know if I can really do it justice, but kind of the culmination of this last 10 years, where people have come out the other side, listening to my guidance, being the rainbow sheep, golden child, former black sheep, got me to this point, and now we're all together, and there's a whole different narrative than what's being put out there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I really do feel as though I live in a different world than a lot of the people around me. The narrative in my head is that the earth is going to ascend, it's going to ascend, and those who are really ready will ascend with it, and those who are not, it's okay.
There's no losers.
No, everybody plays, everybody wins. It's a soul choice of what's going to happen when, and there's no judgment, and it's okay, and everybody is okay. Like, I used to worry about my kids, how's their spiritual path and their growth, and about this person and that. And I just don't anymore, because I know that God's got everybody. I know that they're just on their own soul time lock, when their soul unlocks to remember and know and grow. And that all I can do is be the best mother, or the best friend, or the best loving person to my communities that I can, and allow for each individual soul to do what it needs to when it needs to.
Right on.
I gotta take care of this girl right here. I'm only here to save this girl.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Who are we to think when we haven't done it ourselves?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not done.
Yeah, I ain't done either.
I got work to do.
Yeah, we got work to do.
Someday more evolved than others.
Right. Hey, it was good seeing you. Thank you for the aloha frequencies, and thank you for your service. And we'll have to do it again later in the year.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on the show. I would love to come back and reconnect.
Yeah.
See
Well,
see what's up.
Yeah, right on. Say hello to Mother Kauai for me.
I will. I'll go
Or-
out to the waters and call your name out
Yeah.
and Morgan's name out and let her know that you are thinking of her and missing her.
Oh, I am missing her. I've been missing her recently.
Are you still in
Yeah.
Arkansas?
No, I'm in Texas right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm in
Okay.
transit. I'm
Okay.
just, trying to follow the yellow brick road here.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Well, you take care and we'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thanks, Todd. Aloha.